Welcome back. I just thought I wasn't recording. That was what that face was. That was really embarrassing. You would not believe how much footage I have like that. And sometimes I include it in if it's funny, but I have so much more of me just being like scared by something. In today's episode, I wasn't sure what to make, and I had this idea that was really calling to me, but it just felt like too random to do for a video. But I kept thinking about it, and I just wanted to make it so badly, and then I just couldn't stop thinking about it, and it consumed every second of my day. And any other idea I had, I was like, that's not as cool as this other idea. So I just bit the bullet, and as random as it is, today we're making this crusty, rusty food truck. This is totally valid as just a standalone diorama, but I also designed it in like roughly 28-32-ish millimeter scale, somewhere in there. So this totally also works as like some cool urban scatter for some type of urban tabletop skirmish or like a urban RPG campaign. You also could mess with the scale a little bit and use it for a game like Gaslands. I mean, it's random, but I think it's pretty rad and it's very me. So I'm excited to show you how I made this. Let's get started. I spent a bit of time cooking up this concept. I'm really excited about this. It's pretty simple. We've got big piece of cheese pizza on top because this is a pizza food truck. I got these kind of fun dimensions. I found a ton of cool reference online for different illustrated food trucks to kind of help me with that fun dimensions. You got the big windows and the tiny little front. And my iPad just died. Okay, let's get back to it before I was rudely interrupted. I've got the pizza on the top. I've got a cool awning. I've kind of played around with the color scheme a little bit. I like the tiny little wheels. That just makes me laugh. I've decided I'm going to add some acrylic for the windows, but I'm going to design them in a way where they feel like maybe there's a curtain behind them. In other words, this food truck in particular is going to be closed. I want to have a better reason for that other than I just don't want to model the interior. But that's my reasoning. So excited about this. The build. Let's get into it. I started with a thin piece of cardboard to make a template so I could trace out the side of the van multiple times on a more sturdy material. So here I am making that template for the side of the van. I'm kind of eyeballing it and measuring to make sure the edges are straight. Colonel Mustard for scale. He approves. Once I had the side of the van template made, I traced it out twice onto some cheap foam board to make the actual structure of the food truck, and just slowly and methodically cut it out with an X-Acto knife. For the wheels, I punctured little holes in there. I found that made it a lot easier to carve the sort of rounded shape. From there, I cut out more foam for the top and the sides and the bottom of the food truck and just put it all together as a base structure. This is going to be covered in some more material, so it doesn't have to be perfect in terms of like the surface. This is just to make a solid shape with some structural integrity. Once I had that made, I cut it out again out of some very like smoothly pressed mat board. I actually don't know where I had this. It's just one little extra piece that I had in my scraps. So I glued that on to the side of the food truck, making sure one side had a little window, as food trucks do. The reason why I'm using this additional material is because I really wanted to push myself on this build to make something with like clean craftsmanship and clean edges. You be the judge in the end how well I did that, because as you can see here, there are still gaps here.
but I did smooth some of those over with the Fantic. This is not a sponsored video. A lot of your favorite creators are sponsored by Fantic. That's how I discovered it. And my husband bought me this for Christmas. So this is just me being a fan of the Fantic. I am not sponsored, but it is a really good product. It's like a Dremel, but a lot more useful for our hobby in particular. I used that to smooth out the sides as much as I could. I also went in with an X-Acto knife and sort of carved and beveled those edges. I'm kind of trying to toe the line between making this as smooth and like high craftsmanship as possible, while also, like you see me doing here, giving it a little bit of a cartooniness. So I'm kind of beveling the edges. I don't know how obvious this is in the final build, but I don't know. I wanted to make it as smooth and detailed as possible. I don't know if I'm making any sense here. There's still a lot of gaps. I do plug those up later. I didn't have enough of this black mat board, so I did use some cheap chipboard from the back of a notebook for the back of the van. Here I am cutting some strips out of EVA foam. If you're unfamiliar, this is a fantastic material that I use in pretty much every build. And here I'm just gluing it to the bottom edge of the food truck for the bumper. And I just trimmed it around the wheel wells. I dug through a lot of little bits to try to find some wheels, and I landed on these little beads with little tinier beads on the inside. This is a really simple solution. I just shoved a little bit of foam in there to have the little bead to have something to glue onto, and this worked really well. I purposely designed these wheels to be super small. If they were bigger, I obviously would have to find a different solution. But I might leverage this technique in other builds, making wheels out of beads. It worked surprisingly well. Back to those gaps, I first tried Milliput. Now I'm just gonna go out and say this did not work. I don't know if it's because Milliput is the wrong material for this, or if mine was just too old and crumbly. So I moved on rather quickly to green stuff. Also, probably not the best material to plug gaps in like cardboard, but it got the job done. I sanded it off camera before painting, so it is not as bumpy as it looks here. None of that was really necessary, honestly, but again, I just really wanted to try to make a smooth shape here. That was kind of my goal with this, was to elevate my build a little bit. As you can see here, I'm just adding lots of little greebles to the build, little bits of plastic. These are some little beads that I made for the headlights. Oh my god, oh my god. Perfect, perfect. No, don't touch it, don't touch it. This footage is painful to watch back. Okay, now that that's in place, we can move on. Yeah, I think the headlights came out really great. Again, this is just some little beads and rhinestones. Here's a little bit of a zip tie. Just trying to add a little bit of detail. More little bits of zip ties. The little end part for the little handle on the back of the truck. And finally, a little license plate that I actually cut with scissors out of a plastic bread tab. Those little plastic things that come on the end of bread bags. Finally, we're putting the food into food truck. So here I am cutting out some pieces of cardboard in the shape of pizza. I actually liked this kind of rough corrugated cardboard look. I know it looks like cardboard, but I wanted it to look like metal, like someone really just took some scrap metal and carved this giant slice of pizza for this food truck out of the metal. So it might be hard to picture now, but once I paint this up, I think it has a wicked cool effect. Next, I needed to make the cheese, so I busted out some foam clay. This stuff is really interesting. If you haven't used it, I highly recommend playing around. I'm still kind of figuring out the best use cases for it. And honestly, this, while very specific, using it for the cheese of a giant metal pizza on a food truck, while that is very specific, it is the perfect use case for this. So I just took some tacky glue, and after shaping it roughly into the cheese, I just glued it on and continued to kind of coax it into pizza cheese shape. It's hard to describe this material, but Man, it worked perfectly for this, and it dries exactly like this. So anytime you need kind of a liquidy, gooey looking thing, I would highly recommend using this foam clay. It's really, really awesome. I don't film this aspect of it, but I also learned that if it's a little lumpy or getting a little dry as you're working with it, you can just dip your fingers in water or spray a little water, and it smooths out the foam clay very well. Here I took some wooden discs that I had and just split them into little pieces to make some giant pepperoni for our pizza food truck. I think those looked so cute. I was really excited with how this pizza was turning out. Final little greebles, I'm adding some rivets. So again, this looks like a big hunk of metal just kind of welded and screwed together. The truck and the giant piece of pizza on top. Could not wait to paint this up at this point. Here I am just gluing a couple little bits I had together to make some side mirrors. I didn't film attaching them, but you can see in this shot how they look, and I'm really happy with how those came out. I had the cutaways from when I carved the truck out of the black board, and here I am just collecting a bunch of little materials to make some windows. So like I mentioned in the concept part of this video, I wanted these windows to look like they were kind of shuttered up. So here I am just sizing up a bunch of little bits of material. This is definitely a trust the process kind of part of this. It might be confusing what I'm doing, but here are some of the end results. I don't love how the glue looks at the top and bottom of these. This was supposed to dry crystal clear. I don't really know what the best way to adhere acrylic is to paper. If you have any advice, let me know, but we sort that out later. And here I am with my Fantic one more time, just carving some additional panels in to the truck to add a little bit more detail. Speaking of, I also carved in little sort of like reverse bolts. Like at this scale, this would just kind of look like bolts, but it is actually concave. And I love how these turned out. Finally, we are on to the sign on the food truck. I have all these letters, this random candy cane, these beads, and some bigger wooden letters. And after picking out a name, I just spent a long time, and I do mean a long time, arranging them on the side just to look cool. That's my goal here. I was originally going to go with Krusty & Co. Yes, mostly because I wanted an excuse to use this ginormous ampersand because I think it looks rad. But I couldn't really get the letters to fit perfectly. That little Y was giving me trouble, so I just removed it. I realized Crust & Co. worked just as well. Hey, quick interruption for the segment I like to call the question of the video. Today's question is a very specific one. My last 2 videos have been challenge focused. The first one, I made this Triceratops little diorama exclusively from things I found at a thrift store. And then my last video, this one, I set out to build an entire set of Scattertrain, or rather just as much Scattertrain as I could in 3 days. Those were both so much fun, and I want to know if you have any ideas for cool challenges that I could do, that you'd like to see me do. I have a lot of ideas similar to the thrift store only challenge that I did, where I try to build a diorama from other types of stores. So if you have any stores that you'd like to suggest, feel free. But any sort of parameters, there's stuff that's been done before, like giving myself a budget, giving myself just a certain like toy or set that I have to get really creative with. Nothing is off the table, but feel free to get really creative with this because I have so many videos planned for this channel that I don't know when I'm gonna get to all of them. But I don't know, I'm really excited about the challenge video. I think it's really fun and neat, and hopefully you do too. So let me know in the comments below if you want to challenge me to build a diorama or a piece of terrain or a set of terrain or whatever under like very specific parameters, and I just might get to it in the future. Back to the video.
All right, a couple other things I want to add to this. I do want to add some kind of small like platform here, like a shelf that kind of sticks out, because that's where like the food would be served. But I have an idea for that on how I can make that And I think it makes sense to wait until after I've painted this to add that in. So gonna wait on that. Also, on this window, I want to add a tiny little awning. It would have looked cool if this dipped down into the window just a teeny bit, but I didn't want to do that because I want to make a small little awning. But similarly, I think that's going to be easiest to do after painting the main truck. So I'm gonna do that now. I'll need some kind of creative weathering to fix these up and make them look extra good. Whoa. Infinite camera. Anyway, let's get to painting this bad boy.
You know the drill by now. Once we get to the painting phase, we start with a prime, whether that's in the airbrush or, in this case, brushing on the classic Black Magic Craft recipe of Mod Podge, black paint, and a little bit of water. This seals everything up and helps the paint stick. Immediately after painting, I went back on what I said in the last talking head, where I decided I actually did need the little counter and awning to be added at this point. So even though I just did a first coat, I do build those immediately after. Here you can see me just gluing some popsicle sticks to some toothpicks. Very simple. Drilled in some holes for this awning with a little pin vise, and gently and carefully, this was so nerve-wracking, pushed it in and got it into position how I wanted it. For the counter, I just glued it directly onto the lip. No idea why I was snapping here. I imagine I wanted to do a hard cut to this being painted, but I forgot to do the snap thing on the back end, so you just have to watch this awkward footage. Looks pretty good. Paint's a little thick, but I love how this is coming together. Now I'm just painting it up. This doesn't really warrant much of an explanation, but I will tell you that I am not loving how these cheap craft paints are coming out. I've been using my airbrush a lot recently. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you know that I've been using airbrush, mini paints, and also just like painting rocks and stuff where you don't need perfect coverage. But for something like this, which I guess I just haven't done in a while, I was really struggling to get coverage. I had to do like 3, 4, 5 coats of paint to get this to look solid. I also taped off the bottom half to paint red. I didn't film it, but I took some photos for some reason, so here those are. And here it all is painted after like 5 or 6 coats. Yes, I skipped a lot of steps. It's just simply because it took forever to get this to look solid. Finally, adding some color to the letters. I wanted all the letters to be different colors. I started with blue, cheap craft paint, but was so discouraged at this point by the abysmal coverage that I did switch to my fancier Army Painter paints. I like to save those for minis for the most part, but this is just one coat of this purple and it already looks 10 times better than the blue. All of these other colors are just one coat and they are covering so much better than that blue. So yeah, Army Painter paints for the win in this situation.
Okay. As you may or may not have noticed, I skipped a lot of filming of the painting process. I don't know, it's so dry here. I think that's gotta be what the deal is. You can kind of see there is a lot of brush texture. It's like chunky. I tried so hard to thin the paint an appropriate amount, but it is showing so much texture. And it's not just brush texture. It's like, I do the brush, like the main part of the brush part is smooth, but then like every edge of the blobs of paint, it's very chunky looking, which is fine. I don't know if maybe it's always been like this, or if like what I said in the voiceover is correct about the air being dry, and that's kind of what's going on here.
Okay, confession time. I filmed this clip before I did the voiceover, so me referencing myself in the voiceover was not something I should have done. And I couldn't fit this bit in the previous section because there just wasn't enough footage to cover me rambling. So I'll just mention it now. Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it's just really dry here and that's making this cheap craft paint dry really quickly and kind of chunk up and, you know, not have smooth coverage. I don't know the reason, but that's what I'm talking about here. Okay, back to me.
It is winter. I mean, it's cheap paint. Like, what do I expect? But I feel like I don't usually have this issue. But alas, we're going to push through. I love how this is looking. It's so bright. The color right now is so bright. It definitely looks like a toy, which is kind of cool, to be honest with you. But I am going to weather this up real nice. I have a couple other things to paint. I need to do the back. I don't know. I might just do another paint of the white, another coat. And then I need to do all the metallic details, which includes the bumper that goes around the whole thing. The mirrors I want to be metallic. And some of these smaller bits in the front. I probably need another coat of red on that front part as well. So lots of little things to paint with a metallic, but I just wanted to show this off in full color. Maybe I'll do the door metal as well. That might be cool. After that, I will be making an oil wash, which is new to me. A lot of people on YouTube and not on YouTube do oil washes. I have never done it before. And then finally, we get to all the fun little weathering details, rust, things like that, which if you've watched any of my videos, you know I get really excited about. So let's finish it up.
Okay, so on to finishing it up. I have this metal from Folk Art, this cheap metal paint, and painted all the details that I just mentioned, like the bumper and these little extraneous details, as well as the back doors, which I did decide to paint metal. Once again, the coverage is not great, but after a coat or two, it actually started to look very nice. Definitely looks like a toy. And this step does not help dispel that. I'm adding some acrylic gloss varnish to this because I wanted this to look like metal, not just the metallic color, but the paint, like a really glossy car paint job. Whether or not I should have done that before or after this weathering phase, I don't know, but it worked out in the end. Here I am adding a black oil wash, and I'm laughing because you can't tell from the footage, but I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I added way too much. Oh my gosh, I'm ruining it. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I did genuinely worry that I was ruining it. And the jury is still out on if I used way too much or not, because I do end up wiping a lot of it away. But spoiler alert, stick around, because as much of a mess as this looks, I do pull it off in the end. You just have to keep watching. Essentially, I just remove a lot of it.
Okay, so that last clip you saw was me applying oil wash, which was about an hour and a half ago. My understanding is you want to give the mineral spirits enough time to dry and evaporate so that you can then wipe off more of this with more mineral spirits. I think I did that enough. The oil paint is still like smudgeable, which I think is good. I used like an artist's oil paint as opposed to like any sort of hobby type of concoction. My understanding on that, and this is a very limited understanding, is that the artist oil paints has more linseed oil in it, thusly more working time for this process. So it's been about an hour and a half. It seems much less wet, but it is still very oily. I'm gonna go in with more mineral spirits, Q-tip, this makeup brush that I bought just for this purpose. We'll see how it goes. If that first part of me applying way too much oil wash to this wasn't painful enough, let's see if this goes better.
And I already sort of spoiled it. It does, in fact, go better. So like I just said, this has had a chance to dry a bit, and then you just take some mineral spirits and a makeup sponge or a Q-tip or anything really and wipe away. I do think I probably added too much because this was like messy. I needed to keep kind of cleaning off the sponge, which was difficult to do, but eventually I do end up removing all of the oil that I want, and it just leaves in the shadows this dark, gritty oil wash. I get it now why people do this. My technique here is probably not perfect. It's still extremely gritty, but I like that. I mean, you can't get that sort of deep black in the recesses with an acrylic wash. You just can't. This is such a cool technique, but it does leave it very gritty. I think you need to have a little bit more of a deft hand than I do. But nonetheless, I love it. Finally, moving on to the rust. People who have watched my videos know I love me some rust. I'm literally just blotching on a dark reddish rusty color. This is just basic acrylic paint. There's no rust effect in here yet. Particularly proud of how this little splotch of rust looks. I don't know why, I just think it looks awesome and very realistic. I tried to have a little bit more of a deft hand than I usually do. I know it does already look super, super rusty, but I did try to be a little bit more reserved with where I added rust, so it was a little bit more intentional. This is galvanic corrosion from Vallejo that I've watered down a bit, and that's what I'm using to make those bright orange streaks. And I love how it came out. And yes, this is me holding back on the rust. I wanted to add a lot more, but I don't necessarily want this food truck to look like it's completely in disrepair, just really old and janky. I finally glued in the windows. Again, the glue that I used to glue the acrylic to the backing is not pleasant looking, but I did my best. I need to work on it. It's just so cloudy. I think it's fine. I do kind of have a solution in a moment for that, but here I am gluing in the main kind of service window with some extra little cardboard details and this cute little "sorry, we're closed" sign that I printed out and glued into place. I like little details like this that really help sell the scale and the sort of story. This is not currently open for business. Next, I took this scraggly old brush that I had found and discovered a few months back that if you dry brush with it, it makes the most perfect scratched metal look. I am obsessed with this technique now. Highly recommend if you can find these cheap wiry brushes to dry brush metal with them. They look awesome. Finally, I've been hinting at how I addressed the less than perfect craftsmanship on these windows. I just added a bunch of matte Mod Podge to the corners and then wiped it away with water, thinking that this would look like kind of fogged up windows or otherwise just dirty, grimy windows that have been poorly attempted to be cleaned. I don't know. They're not my favorite part of the build, but I think I pulled it off. And finally, I drew a little license plate. This is supposed to say crust. I should have just added the U because now it kind of looks like Christie or Christ or CR Street. I don't know. I should have just written crust, but that's what I was going for. And because I just cannot stop adding details, I took some acrylic paint markers and added some little bits of graffiti. Again, I think this food truck is operational in this fictional world. That's how I'm envisioning it anyway. But it has seen better days. And that's pretty much how it looks in the end. Man, that oil wash, I get why people do it. It looks so good. Yeah, happy with this one. And that is going to do it for this build. I have some glamour shots coming up soon, as always. I've gotten a lot of new subscribers in the last month or two, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching these videos. I have so much fun doing this. I'm still pretty new to YouTube, haven't even been doing this for a year yet, and all the support I've been getting has been really wicked and really cool. So I hope everyone has a fantastic 2026.
I'm really excited to see what the year brings for me and for all of you. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, but you've watched a lot of my videos or just liked this one in particular, consider subscribing. I try to put out a video every 2 weeks-ish. Speaking of that, I do have a bonus episode dropping in a couple days that didn't feel quite long enough to fit into my every 2-week kind of schedule, but I wanted to include because it is related to this build. So keep a lookout for a bonus video dropping really soon. And also, if you like the dumpster, I do have a video where I built that, and you can see it if you click here. And also, if you like the sign that says Wolf Peach on it, that will also be coming in a future video, but not the bonus one, but soon-ish. Okay, enough self-promotion. Consider subscribing if you want to see any of that. All of these lovely people also recently gave a super thanks since my last video, and I just wanted to say a huge shout out to them. If you want to give me a tip, you can super thanks down in the video description below. There's a button, there should be like a ... or something like that. I'm sure you could probably Google it. As always, you never have to give me your money. That's just, I don't have a Patreon or anything. So that's currently the only way that you can tip me if you want to. But you are welcome here either way. So that's going to do it. Keep an eye out for that bonus episode if you want to see how I built the ground plane display board thing that you're about to see in the glamour shots. And if you asked me questions for my Q&A video, that video will most likely be the next one after the bonus episode. So like give it 2 weeks-ish. If you asked a question, pretty sure I answered all of them. So I did answer your question. And be kind to one another. Go easy on yourself. Let's do good in this world and spread some positivity because the world needs it right now. Catch you in the next one. Oh my God, again, I thought I wasn't recording.